This is Mitch, and welcome to the Real Estate Investor Summit podcast. I'm here with Martin Saenz, and we're going to be talking about discounted notes. Man, I wish I could buy all the discounted notes in the world, but it'd be the shortcut to what I do. I mean, I go ahead and buy the house, and then I create a note on the house, and I have to go through all the stuff in between. That'd be a lot easier just to buy a discounted note, to tell you the truth, but sometimes kind of hard to control your inventory. So that's why I do what I do. I have bought discounted notes. I have bought notes without any discounts because they didn't need to be discounted. But we're going to let a professional here talk to us about it. Hey, Martin, how you doing today?
Good, good. How are you, Mitch?
Pretty good. Where am I? You're sitting where right now?
I'm sitting in my home office in Central Virginia, outside D.C.
All right, man. Well, I'm sitting in San Antonio, Texas, actually Canyon Lake, just a little bit north, but no one knows what that is, so I just say San Antonio.
I know where Canyon Lake is. I've been there.
Place. Oh, you went to UTSA, didn't you? University of Texas at San Antonio.
Yes, I did.
Our Roadrunners have a pretty good football team this year, I understand. So
awesome.
Getting some guys drafted into the pros too, I heard. So let's talk about a little bit about your history first. How old are you, may I ask? How old you are?
Yeah, 44.
Yeah, when did you start the real estate endeavors?
Well, I started small business ownership in 2004 when I was fired from my job.
What was your job?
I managed a call center for a major retailer with about 140 employees.
Okay, so I've started not to ask this question, but I'm going to ask you, why did you get fired? I got to know why you got fired.
So I didn't know it at the time. I had gotten out of school from Drexel with my MBA, and I was going into the corporate world because that was always kind of the thing to do, was get that safe, secure job after a business degree. And what I found is that I didn't play politics well. So I learned that it's not, in corporate America, it's not all about your value that you're bringing to the table. It's about how well you're playing the politics end of it.
That's one thing about big corporations and everything. It's like, if you don't agree or someone above you doesn't really value you for whatever reason, right or wrong, you're probably not going to get the bonus or move up the ladder or anything else. And that's kind of a shame. That's one of the reasons I elected self-employment. I rise or fall based on my own initiative, and I got no one to blame but me. I can look in the mirror every morning and go, it's your fault. Whatever happened, it's your fault. It's your fault, good or bad, right?
Yeah. I still do that quite often, and I'm sure you do as well.
Let's explore that a little bit. I know we want to get to the notes and everything, but there's also this thing of taking the leap, and there's a lot of people out there listening that are on the verge or contemplating or wish they had the nerve. Let's talk about how unnerving it was, or how calm you were. Tell us about that leap. Was it unsettling? Was it nerve-wracking? Had you been planning it?
Like anything else, when you hit the pain point enough, then that will motivate you to make that change. And you have to hit rock bottom. And what I realized is that I couldn't just go to another corporate job, because it would be a repeat. It would be more of the same. So I knew that I had to be out on my own, doing my own thing at that point. So I didn't view it as having any other options at that point. So my wife and I just literally took out about $240,000 of high interest credit card debt to start a small company which sold to the federal government. And we did that out of the basement of our home. And I didn't realize it at the time, but I hit many other pain points along the way in the first few years of getting that off the ground. But fortunately, with the good Lord blessing us, we were able to start turning a profit within 3 year, and we started building on our dream, which was really to accumulate real estate. So we bought the building that we operated our company out of in 2009, and just started building a real estate portfolio with commercial and residential property from that 2009 period.
Okay, so you didn't start out buying and selling notes. It sounds like you started out buying and renting properties, or what were you doing when you originally went into the real estate business?
So, 2004, my wife and I hit every workshop there was. We were, for real estate investing, we heard it all. You live on the beach after 30 days, and retire young, and all that. Stuff you're probably doing, Mitch, no doubt. so
You want
anyway,
to read my book? I fall down so many times, my nose should be flat.
So what I realized is that, business ownership was a lot of grind, 100-hour work week, 7 days a week, etc. So I realized that freedom wasn't received through that small business ownership. So, buying those commercial properties and residential, which I still self-manage today, I thought that I would find freedom through that. And what I realized is it was more of a long-term annuity play as I'm paying down those properties. It's not like, it's not the cash flow that I'm in need of to build my, towards my aspirations. So, it's one of those things, paying off those properties, it'll be there as an annuity play later. So in 2013, when my wife,
Let me say this though. So, that's what I teach the other side of the coin is just sell or finance these properties. Hand it to a note servicing company, and you will clear the difference between what you're collecting and what you're paying out, because you're not the landlord and you're not responsible for everything from the back fence to the front mailbox. So that's what you learned in that lesson, right? And I learned the same lesson too when I had 25 rent houses. That rental thing is kind of a myth, and unless you're buying these properties free and clear, I don't see any cash flow from these things. It's more like a forced savings account where you have to put in $1,500 today into the account to fix the air conditioner, whether you like it or not. And it's like a forced savings plan over 20 years or something. But
yeah, well, there's one caveat to that. It's there's no tax advantages to note investing. So real estate can offset that. So that's kind of the only thing. So I think it is good to have a balanced portfolio.
We'll talk about that. And what kind of rentals do you want? There's different kinds of rentals. You don't have to be single family houses or apartment complexes even. You really don't have to deal with families in some rentals. We'll talk about that. There is no appreciation and there's no depreciation in notes or note creation. So that's the downside. And I'll tell you how I got over it later. But so keep going. So after you figured out that the rentals wasn't quite everything you'd been told, what next?
Yeah, there's one thing that I did learn about the rentals that still is with me today, because I do buy a few properties a year, and that is I buy commercial industrial spaces whereas I look for limited use of the property. That's what my key is. So if you go and buy a single family home and that family of four is beating the heck out of that home 24 hours a day, then that's significantly different than if I'm buying block walls in an industrial park and they're only there 9 to 5 Monday through Friday. And two of my tenants are churches, so they're only there on Sunday. So that was kind of one of the things that I kind of learned is, from a maintenance standpoint, is to move to that industrial space.
Well, cool. I decided to own or finance storage buildings, self-storage in boat storages, where they don't live there. If they need to move along or they can't pay their bills, no big deal. It's just a bunch of trash anyways. All that storage wars stuff is bullshit. So if they're going to quit making their payments, they go in and generally take everything that's worth anything before they quit making their payments and just leave you with a trash bill. But yeah, I like what you're doing. Commercial's a lot different than residential, and it has a whole different feel to it. You can also do triple net with these people in commercial, right? They pay the insurance, the taxes, and the rent, and the maintenance. So, talk about what led you into note buying, or
so my wife and I we sold our company in 2013, and from that point, we took back a large business note. So that was kind of my first, entry into the note investing field. I'm like, wow, I'm getting paid, this handsome amount of money monthly. And from that point, I went to one of the large note trainers to do one of their 3-day program. And I kind of, I just got hooked from that point. I said, this is really where it's at. It's heavy in the real estate field, but if you look at kind of the play, the bank's always kind of in the middle of everything, right? Whether it's private money lending and you're working a spread, or you're borrowing, from the bank to buy a rental property, what have you. I mean, the bank's always there and they're always collecting their check, and they're always well collateralized against the property. So I said, this is it for me. But what I found in my first year of note investing, because I started as a full-time note investor in 2013, self-funded and self-taught, is that when I came out of the gate, I did what most people did, and that is buy first mortgage notes, non-performing notes where the borrower has not made a payment in 3-4 years, and it's secured by a first lien on the property. And that was kind of my first entry point into note investing.
Okay, but you don't buy these notes in any one particular state, do you, or do you?
I buy
over? Are there any states you won't buy it in?
I'm sorry?
So you're not relegated to one state. Are there states that you don't want to deal in?
No, I'll buy in all the states. Absolutely.
Anything for a price, right? You'll buy a note for $1, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'll buy a note for $1.
Anywhere. When people ask me,
what you find is some notes aren't worth $1.
Yeah, I understand. So some people always ask me, so what part of town do you buy houses in? I go, the half price part of town. whatever side of town that happens to be today. Yep. But that's always what scared me about buying notes. Maybe you can help me overcome this, limited mindset. It worries me to have my collateral so far away and be in a different state where there's different laws, and I don't know the laws particularly, and so how do you overcome that mindset?
Well, Mitch, I would just say that you should not get into note investing. It's very risky. So you should stay right where you're at. So no, here's the thing, and this is why I mentioned I came out of the gate buying first mortgage notes, is because I thought that was more less risky, so to speak. But what I actually found out is with first mortgage notes, a majority of those properties were fair market value 70K and under properties. So a lot of them were junk properties, and I was buying across the country. And what I was finding is that I was foreclosing and having to take back those properties 9 times out of the 10 purchases. So I was becoming that long distance landlord that you're speaking of, that created major headaches where you have 10 different properties in 10 different states, and you're building 10 different teams to go and
shampoo the carpet and fix the broken window.
Yeah. So this is where I made the monumental change, and that is after the first year, I started buying some junior liens on properties. And what I found is junior liens being like second liens and second, third liens on properties. What I found is I was buying these junior liens on real high dollar properties, 150K up to $1 million and beyond. And I was getting a better class of borrower, and I was able to work with them and get really good loan modifications in place. And so once I started seeing that cash flow, that was it.
That's very interesting.
That was the model.
You just piqued my interest. That's very interesting because, buying a second lien in default, it sounds risky at first because, if the first lien forecloses, it could wipe you out. But the question is, if you're going to buy a second lien or a third lien, do you have the money or the resource to take over the liens ahead of you and capitalize? And that could be some huge margins, right? There might be a second lien on $1 million house where the first lien is $200,000 and you're only picking up $50,000 in the second. Well, if you have the wherewithal to clear up the $100,000 in the first lien position in case it defaults, then you stand to make a lot more money than your interest rate on or your return on a $50,000 note. There's always this little lottery ticket out here that if they default on the first, that you could go make the first right with an extra $200,000 and end up with a $1 million house with $250,000 invested, right? $50,000 for the second, had to clear up the first to get them out of the way because they were threatening to foreclose. So you paid them off. Now you're in the driver's seat at a $250,000 out-of-pocket expense on $1 million house. Am I looking at that right?
Not so much, because when you go through, so here I want to kind of go speak more towards the loan modification angle, because I actually foreclose very seldom. It's very seldom I'm foreclosing right now. But to answer your question from a technical standpoint, when you go and file foreclosure in a junior lien position, you will file, and most likely if you're like in a judicial state, you're going to file a deficiency lien judgment. And so you're going to set an amount. This is what's owed to me. So then if you go and you take that through the foreclosure sale process, then, and you clear that first out, then upon resale of that property, you'll get what your deficiency lien judgment is amount. And then plus, if you paid off that first. So you're not going to get the rest of the proceeds would go to the borrowers in most of the states. But here's the thing.
I forgot about that, Martin. I forgot about that.
No, but that's okay. But here's the thing, though. When you foreclose in the junior lien position, I'm going to answer this again as well. That you have it's in almost every state. It's subject to the first. So you don't have to pay off that first unless you're reselling that property. So what a lot of note investors do is they will rent out the property if the spread is there, pay the first, and just kind of maintain the property and work the spread between the cost of the rental and what's coming in from a cash flow perspective. Or if you do have that equity, like on that scenario, $200K owed on the first, $50K on the second, it's $1 million at fair market value. Then you just go and get a deficiency lien for all your collection fees, legal fees, plus what's owed on the principal balance, and as well as past due interest, arrears, and late fees, and then you resell the property for that gain.
I was actually, in my example in my mind, I don't know if I explained it right, but I was actually saying if the first was in default and they were foreclosing, they have to notify the down the line, the second and the third and the fourth liens. They have to notify them and give them a chance to clear it up. And that's what I was thinking. I was basically just trying to point out that if you operate under a certain amount of rules, it doesn't matter what happens, you're going to be okay, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Without a doubt. I've done, my whole livelihood's based on what I'm doing with note investing and building a portfolio of loan modifications.
Tell us about one of your latest success stories. Give us a case study. Okay.
It was a note that was purchased from a top 10 bank last July, and I worked out terms. The UPB, which is unpaid principal balance, is $212,000. We purchased the note for about 20 cents on the dollar, and worked it out with the borrower where they're starting to make payments on the $212,000. So I have a note for $212,000 over a 40-year period.
And how much did you pay for it?
About 20 cents on the dollar.
So what is that? $40,000?
Yeah. But here's the thing, you would be hard pressed to get that, or folks listening, because you have to be positioned well within the note space. So I'm not saying that, being the Debbie Downer on it, but it's, if you started note investing and you went and bought, from a retail setting, you're not going to hit those price points. But when you do, when you start positioning yourselves and you have the reputation and the identity within the space, then you can definitely get carved into some advantageous deals.
Okay, so I appreciate that kind of transparency, and I think the audience should too. He's not telling you that you do this overnight. He's, like you have a workshop coming up, right? And, I'm going to go ahead and give the dates just so in case these podcasts are archived. So, at some point there will be this workshop will be obsolete, but you can still get in contact for the next workshop or whatever's going on. But it's July the 26th through the 27th. It's called the Note Investing Fundamentals Workshop. And I'm going to give a link out so you can get all the details about it. It is reinvestorsummit.com/note workshop. And that'll get you over to the show notes for this episode. And in that show notes, You'll have any and all contact information for Martin and his company and anything he has to offer or wants to give away or where it is. So this is kind of just a shortcut to giving you a million links. Just go over to reinvestorsummit.com/note workshop. Note workshop, okay? And get over there. And by the way, Martin, that's an evergreen show notes. You can change dates if you want to. You can, if you have speaking engagements, you can list them. If you have stuff you want to give away, you can give it away. Have your people call my people and they'll get it all figured out.
Yeah, sounds good. I appreciate that, Mitch.
So what is one of these workshops like? I mean, what can you expect when you go there for 2 days?
I would say it's the opposite of what I experienced in the larger training school format that I went to initially. So I kind of looked at it from the perspective of, and I'll give you the layout for the workshop in just a second. But one thing I learned is in being a note investor full time and living off of what I've created, the portfolio I've created, I kind of put the workshop together based on what I think that investors need to be successful. And one of the heavy underlining emphasis within the whole workshop is to help transition people, to transition folks that are coming in to think more like a business owner, where they're building a business model for themselves that's going to work for them based on their strengths and weaknesses, aside from the mechanics, aside from the how-to and all that. And to me, what I find is that's one of the most critical elements, because a lot of people, it's hard to transition, especially if they're working like a W-2 job and they come into this. So it's very difficult to have success in the note investing space based on all the nuances. You just mentioned them a little earlier, just taking it as a hobby, as a side investment. So it really requires a lot of immersion. And I focus on 4 phases in the workshop. The first phase being sourcing. So how to source off the street deal flow. So it's very easy to come into note investing. There's retail exchanges online you can go to and buy notes today if you wanted to. But you're not going to get the types of deals that I'm seeing or other people within my space are seeing. And second phase is we focus on due diligence. So I have a 3-round due diligence process. First round, I focus on the borrower on the property. So I look over all the property details, use Realty Track. I look up any, liens on the property and ownership and back taxes and things like that. Second round, I deal with the borrower and their ability to pay. Because at the end of the day, that's all that really matters to me is actually the borrower and their ability to pay. And I know that's a mind shift change from a lot of folks in the real estate field, where you're a real estate rehabber investor. You want to climb a tree with your binoculars and look at the roof and see if the roof shingles are on tight, and you want to go knock on the wall to see if there's mold, and you like that kind of stuff. To me, I just like to see, hey, is this borrower have good character? Are they back on their feet and able to pay me on a monthly basis? That's really what I care about.
Can you find a way to make their payment a little bit less so they can afford it, right?
Mitch, bingo.
Because you bought it at such a discount, you can manipulate the interest rate, or you can recast the loan with a different set of years or something, longer years. Do something to help them out. My general impulse is, if they couldn't pay or honor their word to that bank, why would they honor their word to you on a new deal? So I'd like to pose that question.
That's a great question. And the number one answer that, you'll see time and time again, because I talk to borrowers all the time. And what you get is they had some circumstance that went on in their life 4 years ago, 5 years ago. They got it's usually one of 3 things. It's love. So they got a divorce, some type of change, relationship change situation. Health, they lost their health, or someone in their family lost their health, or job. They lost their job, they're underemployed. So
see, that's the same thing I want to know. Is like, I'm selling people houses with owner financing who don't have great credit. We're going the same direction. I want to know what happened, and is it over, and are you back on your feet? Bad things can happen to great people. Bad things can happen to you and me. Tomorrow can happen, right? And cause us an issue. and I'm giving them a loan where the credit bureau is not forgiving them for that faux pas, but you and I are going back to not be a machine that has little portals to fill. We're rational people that can understand a situation and decide if we're being told the truth or not.
Yeah, it's the whole thing is the win-win situation, the win-win scenario, and that's why I fell in love with loan modifications and junior lien note buys, is because when I was buying first mortgages, I was taking back property. The last thing in the world that I want to do is displace a family. Who wants to do that? I mean, you want to make a business model on display? No, absolutely not. And so what I found is I can go and help people restructure their debt. I bought the note at a discount. I can offer discounts. I can extend their loan term. I can lower their interest rate. I can look at their financial situation and actually give them, structure something that's going to work within their budget. And they're going to win. They're going to be happy from a cash on cash perspective. I'm going to be happy. And I own the note, and I don't have to answer to investors. I don't have to do, any of that. So, everyone wins at the end of the day.
I think it sounds like an incredible business and a great strategy. I mean, even in the downturn, this is probably a bigger business in the downturn, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. There's, nobody wants the economy to tank, but there's more of these notes and inventory out on the street when the market takes a dive. And so right now, I'm still buying now, but you don't have to buy these in non-performing states. You can go and buy notes that are performing too, or reperforming, they call it. So in other words, the borrower's already back on track. They've made a year's payment. It's seasoned, and you can go out and buy those for a yield. And I've bought notes from, anywhere from 14% to 20% yield. I have them in my IRA, in my wife's IRA, and we're just kind of, building from that point. It's a great industry. I don't have to go touch real estate. I don't have to go and work with contractors. I don't have to rehab a prop. I don't have to find mold behind the drywall. The list kind of goes on and on.
So, that's one of the things I like about what you're saying. You're actually helping people not lose their home, aren't you?
Absolutely. That's so yeah, helping people stay in their homes with payments they can afford while making a profit for myself. That's my mission statement.
All good all the way around. You're even helping the banks, because these people the bank doesn't want the house back either. Really, I mean, they always lose money when they take houses back, it seems like, so they don't want them back. I was with Texas100.org up in Austin at the state capitol. They're trying to pass a law down here that was saying that you can't wrap a subject to mortgage if it has a due on sale clause. And we're up there, lobbying to tell them what they're not understanding. One of the things I found very interesting was they had the banking commission there, and everyone thought the banking commission was going to be against investors because we do things like subject tos and we don't notify them and all that. And when we posed the question, got in negotiations with the banking commission, the head of the banking commission in the state of Texas said, do you want us to give you a notice? Do you want us to put in here that you get notified when a sub-2 mortgage transaction happens? And they said, no. They don't want to be notified. And they didn't say why, but I know why, I think, is that if you notified them, they would have to make a decision right then that they're going to foreclose or they're not. And they don't particularly want to foreclose. They just want the right to. And if you tell them and they don't foreclose, then maybe it can be construed as acceptance. And so they don't want to be notified. And all the senators and House of Representatives sitting up there on the committee that were interviewing, or I guess we were testifying and giving them a chance to ask questions about our industry, they all thought that we were doing the bank wrong. And the bank commissioner said, don't penalize these guys. They're saving us from tons of foreclosures. Tons. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I couldn't help but laugh because I knew that. And I looked at all the 18 people on the panel and I went like, I'm trying to tell you guys. And they wouldn't believe me, but until the banking commission guy said.
Yeah, one of the evils in this whole, the whole banking industry is, and I feel like, and many of my colleagues feel like we're kind of the ones that are cleaning up the mess of the large banks. When
Kind of.
2006
There's no kind of to it. We're the ones that clean it up. The private investors are the ones that fixed all of it.
Yeah, yeah. And on the defaulted note side, you have bundles, tranches that were put together, sold to hedge funds, and all these funds are selling off to each other, flipping paper.
They were fractionalizing the title of the deed, so it was not worth it to any one person to go fix the dang thing because nobody owned all of the note. And the way you do, you have complete control of 100%. The way I do it, I have 100%. Something goes wrong, it's worth it to me. I'll go fix it. Try to help them. If they can't, try to get another person in. Regardless, I'm paying my private lender's bill, no matter what happens, they don't even know. And I just handle my business. But great stuff. I see a lot of character in you just by some of the things I'm reading in your bio, like in your workshop. You're promising them there's no upsell, which is a great relief to people that go to these workshops these days. A lot of times we go to these workshops and you go there and it was just a hook to get in there and tell you a little bit about the business, just enough to open your eyes a little bit, but they don't tell you anything really how to do it. There's not any real coaching. And then they dangle this, learn how to really do it for $25,000 or something. So my hat's off to you for having that kind of workshop. You're going to go there. The people that come to your workshop sounds like you're going to teach them how to buy notes right there.
Yeah, I give them all my forms and agreements that I use. I give them my whole business model from front to back. And I actually mentor only a few people in a very hands-on way. And I'm actually sold out of mentorships this year. So, because I only mentor a couple of people, because I'm an actual note investor. I'm not a professional talker. I'm not a professional salesperson.
I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you. Because that's the same way I am. Maybe I'll take 15 people this year one-on-one because I'm going to answer the phone and I'm going to apply myself to 100% of my ability to whatever your situation is. And I can't do that for thousands of people or even hundreds of people, for even 25 people. I can't do it because I have my own businesses. B, I got my own family. B, I like going to my ranch. And C, I got a life I got to live too. So I can't take on 1,000 people. And it's an injustice that some of the coaching programs out there will either people will overload themselves so they're no good to anyone, or usually this is normally what happens. They sub you out to some student that did their first 15 notes last year, and that's not an expert. They sub you out to a novice. That's not what you paid the big bucks for. You know what I mean? So my hat's off to you to the way that you're handling this, the way you're teaching it. I've agreed with the same thing. I've been chastised by the gurus saying, you can't scale this model. And I said, look, I make good enough. I'm not looking to scale it. I'm looking for two things. The money's part of the situation. And I found when I didn't charge money, I didn't get the other thing that I needed. And the other thing I needed was an emotional high in knowing that I helped change someone's life, because I have enough money now. Money's not my issue. You know what I mean? So part of what I need out of this program, give me the check, but what I'm looking for is the win for the person I'm coaching. I love it when we ring the bell or they drive to my house from 6 hours away to shake my hand to get back in their car and go back and say, I just told my boss I don't need his services yesterday, and you're the first person I got in my car I want to talk to, and thank you.
That's wonderful.
6 months ago, and he started crying, and I started crying, and then I don't know. It was all worth it. Everything I've done for 24 years, I saw a bigger reason, than what I originally started out for. In the beginning, and you're going to echo this, I'm sure. In the beginning, we're just trying to find a way to make a living and get financially independent, so people don't tell us what to wear, when to get up, how long we can go on vacation, if we can go to our kids' basketball game out of town. these people are running your damn life. And I look for people when I coach. There's this meter that I start. It starts registering the minute I start talking to people that want to come on board as a coaching student. And I'm looking to see how far that meter gets pegged over into I've had enough of this crap. And if it's pegged like way down in the red, that's one of the major things I'm looking for. It's not everything I'm looking for, but it's one of the major things I'm looking for. And you're going to agree with me on this too, I bet. Because you can't take a lot of people, if you say yes to them, it's because you really believe you can help them. Because why would you say yes to someone just for the money and you couldn't get the other side of the formula, which is the emotional high and the satisfaction of really changing a life?
That is a very true statement. So one thing I'm going to add to that is that I look for how financially solvent someone is, because how can you go and attempt to be the bank, to be financially secure and advance? If you're bad with money now, then you're going to be even worse when more money comes in.
Yeah, other people's lives will be in your hands at that point.
Yeah, so I'm looking for people that do have some competency, do have some self-control, and have hit that pain point, like you said, that are willing to advance. So with the people that I mentor, they double as a buyer's group with myself. So I actually put in my own money, they put in their money, so that we couple money and go after larger takedowns. So that's kind of how the business model. So I can't have Joe Schmo if Joe is broke and Joe doesn't make good decisions and he's not going to listen to anything. I mean, what good would that do? Bringing him into my group.
Yeah, I understand 100%. So it sounds like some kind of salesman ploy, but it's not. I interview my people before I decide to take them for about an hour, and it's a lot of stuff and it's not an interrogation, although it goes into some pretty personal stuff, because you got to know, if I'm going to help you, I need to know, where are you at? How long are your legs? How short are your legs? What's your bank account look like? What's your savings account look like? What do you got going for you? What do you got going against you? Is your wife on board? Is she not on board? You got handicapped kids? Yes or no? Why does that apply? Because handicapped kids demand a lot of time, and we're not going to neglect them. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of things I ask. And you sound like the same exact kind of guy. What I did was I just had, I had the online thing, and then I had the one-on-one, but so many people couldn't reach the one-on-one level that I just made a Tuesday night coaching call, kind of a group coaching that was way more affordable, and, and more people could get in and test the waters. At the price that you pay sometimes for one-on-one mentoring, that's no price to test the waters. That's the price when you're going into something and you need a pro standing next to you.
So this is why I do the 2-day workshop. This is actually the time where I get to know folks, and I can't do, I get calls from RIAs around the country, and they're like, come speak and present. And I can't go there, do a Wednesday night satellite on Saturday, and then kind of work people into my funnel. I can't. I have 4 children, 6 and under. So I'm home. My wife stays at home and homeschools them. So I spend time. I coach on 2 of their little league teams. I mean, I'm not looking to go do a road show around the country.
Yeah, I get it 100%. My wife has Parkinson's, and so I have to be. I had to change my lifestyle. I had to stay. I used to like to travel around, talk to people, because I like people and I like talking to them. But here, at the current moment, I have to do things from my house and my town, because I can't leave for even one night. So,
but that's forced you to be better, though, right? To move your model around and be better where you're at.
Yeah, and I was going to say that to people. For once in your life, not making a lot of money can be an asset if you can find one of these strategies in real estate that work for you, because you won't have to be that successful to replace your job. And then at that point, you get back 2,600 hours a year to work on yourself instead of work for someone else. Mm-hmm. So for those of you listen that don't make a lot of money, that was my greatest. I had 2 greatest gifts. I didn't go to college, which is probably why I didn't make a lot of money, because no one wanted to pay me any exorbitant amount of money because I didn't have that piece of paper. And that was the greatest thing that ever happened to me, because I was forced at some point to say, if I can't make $30,000 a year out in the street by myself, then I'm just going to go, jump off a cliff. I learned how to make $30,000 a year, and then I learned how to make $50,000 a year, and then $100,000 a year, and every time I raise the bar, just like you're self-employed. Every time you improve your business by $50,000 or $100,000, you're 100% recipient of it.
Yeah.
If you want to increase that company that you work for when you're in the phone room, if you didn't figure out how to increase their sales $100,000 a year, how much of it would they given you?
Yeah, no.
Zero.
Yeah.
And then do it for 30 years and they'll give you a gold watch. Way to go.
Yeah. Yeah, no, thank you. No, thank you. You have to do for yourself in this economy. And, but I think you would agree that none of this is easy. So in 2017, I wrote a book called Note Investing Made Easier. And I have a copy here, and this is what it looks like. And it just went through the roof in terms of sales, and it's still up there, as one of the top books. And I've since written 2 additional books. So what I found is that I took so much satisfaction in helping borrowers, create loan modifications that they can afford within their budget, and it gave me such satisfaction. And then I wrote a book to help other people. And what I realized is that, wow, people just coming to me, letting me know all their stories, situations, and I never was exposed that way. I'm an introvert by trade. So then now that, coming out of the closet, and you probably get this because you have such a large audience, you just have people that are just, they want more. They know where they're headed is not good. They see the writing on the wall. I have people that someone was upper 60s and they're like, I have $20,000. Can I give it to you? They asked me if they could give it to me to invest. I said, no, I don't do that. But what's sad is someone else is going to take that money. And
will you please recommend me? Because I will take their money and I will pay them back like I have for 24 years. Send them to me, please. Because this strategy requires, that kind of money. And I have 44 people who have about $15 million invested with me, and many of them been with me for over a decade or a decade and a half. I know exactly how to take care of people's money. It's almost like a public service, because when they don't give their money to me, I find out later that 50% of them lost their money. Within a year or 2 or 3, they don't have any of it left. It's all gone, and usually it wasn't because they bought stuff for themselves. They do things like loan it to Uncle Harry in Alaska because he's starting a snow cone factory in Alaska, and they don't know it yet, but that money's gone. That money's long gone.
Or shiny objects too. There's so much white noise in the whole real estate industry. It's unreal.
So again, go to reinvestorsummit.com/note workshop and learn about the workshop on July the 26th through the 27th of 2019. If we've already passed that date on the archive version here, then go to reinvestorsummit.com/note workshop and find out what's pending. Maybe he'll have updated it. Are you giving away anything, or is there anything you can give to our listeners to get them kind of acquainted with you?
Yeah, I can give them my REO calculator, my spreadsheet that I use when I'm calculating cash on cash for my deals.
All right. So go to reinvestorsummit.com/note workshop, get a free copy of your REO calculator, and see how what that spreadsheet looks like when you're trying to size up whether or not to buy a note, or whether or not, or what kind of offer you need to make. So that's a great thing. And we'll put some stuff about your books in there too, okay? So that you can
great.
So your books. Writing a book changed my life, just like it sounds like it did yours too. I had no idea that so many people were going to gravitate to it. And there is a world of people out there hurting, not satisfied with what they're doing in their life, and they don't know what to do, but there's lots of ideas out there, and not every idea is for every person. You agree, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It takes a certain character that can handle, I mean, it takes a certain person that can handle rehabbing, landlording, note investing. They're all, different personality traits.
It takes a certain person to do childcare. It takes a certain person to do lawn maintenance and gardening. It takes a certain person to build a deck. I mean, come on. You got to, people said, how did you get into real estate, Mitch? I like to tell them, yeah, I failed at everything else. It was the last thing left. I mean, honestly, I had a stack of business cards about that big that didn't work out. and I think one of the reasons it took me so long to recover on every one of those businesses was I never left with a bad name, and I never left owing anybody by the end of it. I always paid everyone back whatever it was. And so I'd go a year or a year and a half and fail, and then it'd take me another year to pay everybody back. So it was a long time in between businesses because I always put my head down and paid everybody back and kept my good name, which paid off in the end.
Well, I think the key word to what you're saying is businesses. You ran it, you set it up and ran it as a business. And that right there in and of itself is as hard as learning the day-to-day operation of what to do to get something from an unpaid state to a paid state. And that's what I find in the note investing space is there's so many nuances. I'm buying in every state. When you buy notes as a note investor and I'm buying from banks, I'm buying across the country. So you have to know different things in different parts of the country and judicial states, non-judicial, what types of vendors to use, how to pull credit report, how to pull skip tracing, background checks, and all that. So that's really what I try to do is simplify that for folks so that they can walk away and just have some clarity in terms of how they need to proceed. Most people proceed when they come into real estate investing or note investing is just trial and error, right? They just kind of throw things out.
That's how you and me did it. And it hurt, didn't it? It hurt.
And exactly that's right. Is you take all the learning curve, the pain of the learning curve. Well, what I'm trying to do is help reduce that learning curve for people that want to come into the note space.
Very good, man. Very good. Where's your workshop going to be held at?
In Washington, D.C., about 15 minutes from Reagan National Airport. So folks can just fly in and shuttle or Uber over to the hotel. And it's 2 days. It's a small group setting. So I don't do large venues. It's I'd rather just have a few, a small group to make it a hands-on workshop. It's very customized. So we learn what everyone's aspirations are as because people are how people's personalities and situations are made up is going to determine how they source deals, how they vet those deals, and how they work with borrowers to get, borrowers back on their feet. So we kind of go into all those areas during the workshop.
A lot of minutia to any business, right? And so you're going to take them down into some of the minutia and weed out some of the things. I think, you got me wanting to go to this thing. I got my hands full, but you sound like a guy that if I went there, I'd get my money's worth because you're going to talk right to me and you're going to give me the real meat on the bone, and it's not to get an upsell, which I love. I love that.
Yeah.
All right, and I really appreciate you. By the way, we're talking about notes here, so I would be remiss if I didn't mention that we have a sponsor for the Real Estate Investor Summit podcast they're a sponsor all the time, but from time to time you'll see their ads. It's moatnoteservicing.com. It's moat as the moat around a castle, MOAT, noteservicing.com. If you guys got notes and would rather put that collection in the hands of someone else, go visit moatnoteservicing.com. Talk to them, see what they say. They're very reasonable and they're very professional. I know for a fact they bought like a $20,000 servicing software and then spent thousands of dollars to train their people on it. And there's not a thing this software doesn't do. And so it even has portals where people can get in and see their accounts real time. So you don't have to make phone calls to find out if a payment was made or not. So check them out, moatnoteservicing.com. Just a little extra plug for the guys there for supporting the podcast so well.
Yeah, don't self-service notes. You need to get set up with a servicing company.
Oh, good. So do you set up with a servicing company too?
Always. I mean, what's your time worth? You know, they send out monthly statements, they send the year-end tax filings, you know, they keep you in compliance. I'm sure
Keep going, because they do all that. Plus they send all the late letters and late fees. They'll take it right up to foreclosure and then hand it off to your lawyer for you. You know what I mean? So
what's your time worth at the end of the day? Your time should be spent on sourcing new deal flow, sourcing and vetting deal flow.
let's talk about that a second before we close out. I was going to wrap up, but this is interesting. One of the easiest things to outsource is bookkeeping and collections, whether you're a landlord or no matter what business, outsource those things, because the money's made making the deal, right? To put it in a generality, the money's made making a deal. In Martin's case, it's buying a note. In my case, it's buying that house at that right price. I don't know, every business, you can see exactly where it all starts. My business, it starts with a house. His business, it starts with a note. Why are you doing anything else besides that? And if you don't have a lot of notes, then the price for collections is not very much. Same thing with bookkeeping. You don't have a lot to keep track of. It's a small bill, and let that grow as you grow. And your bill will get bigger as you get bigger, but it should be able to handle it. It should just.
People gravitate.
Most businesses there's too many hats to wear, and if you wear them all, you will maybe make a lot of money, but you won't have any time to enjoy it, and maybe give yourself a heart attack. You know what I mean?
What I find is that many people gravitate towards what their strengths are and move away from their weaknesses. So instead of developing a weakness, which may be sourcing, i.e. picking up the phone and calling someone, and so they instead of doing that, they fill up on what they're strong at, and that's back office admin, keeping busy work. Because the more they do the busy work, the more that they don't have to focus on. But if you neglect what you may have a weakness in, then that's going to cost you in terms of a business. And at that point, what I always recommend is people should bring on partners. That may be a point where you have a strategic partner that they can shore up and offset some of what your weaknesses are.
Yeah, please don't get a partner that's just like you. You don't need that. You need someone who has everything that you don't have. If you're a great deal finder, go find a guy that has money that's not a great deal finder. Y'all get together. You're going to triple. Each of y'all are going to triple. So it won't be double, be triple.
Is there another Mitch out there?
Excuse me?
Is there another Mitch out there?
Mike Powell is my partner, and I keep things funded, and I keep the infrastructure of the office, running the way it's supposed to. He handles acquisition, sales, team, and all that part of the business. So it's a perfect fit, and it works out really, really well. I've done 2,000 plus houses in my career over the last 24 years. If you do the math, it's like a house every 4 or 5 days for 22 years. If I never see another house again, I don't care. And what happened was, we finally, after 15 years, and I've been in the business now 22, 23, 24 years, depending on when you want to exactly claim it. I haven't seen the last 300 houses I bought, and I personally have not seen the last 300 people who bought my houses. So after 15 years in the business, I finally figured out how to make that a business. And what I did was, I paid $30,000 to go sit in a mastermind or a think tank with similar people in exactly the same business who had already done it, and let them tell me how they did it. And I remained open, and I let them unwind me, and then I let them rewind me a different way. And it wasn't fun, and it wasn't easy by any stretch of the imagination. And one of the things I had to give myself permission to do was not buy 100 houses that year. Because if I'm going to work on my business, trying to get it to where it can run without me, I'm not going to be out there buying houses. I'm working on the internal things of it. Who's going to fill this chair? Who do I interview to get? What does this person look like? And what are they going to do? And how do I tell them what to do? So I spent a year doing that, and I only bought 30 houses instead of 100. The first 4 times I tried to become a real business, I tried by myself. And the biggest mistake I made was I didn't give myself permission to not buy 100 houses that year. So I was trying to buy 100 houses and set up a business, and you couldn't do it. It was too labor, too time intensive. And I went to that mastermind, and that's what they told me. He says, you're going to have to give yourself permission to not have a stellar year this year.
The power of education, good education, surrounding yourself with the right people. Good for you.
Yeah, it was very painful. But I was going to quit if it wasn't for that because I was exhausted. So it was like, I'll do anything besides lose 100% of the income. Maybe I'll just lose half the income. I'll pay people. They taught me how to make more income, and I didn't show up. So it's a whole nother topic. But hey, you guys go to REInvestorSummit.com/note workshop. If you have a chance, get up to DC July the 26th and 27th, 2019, and do this workshop. No upsells. The guy's going to teach 100% for 2 days. Going to give you his forms and everything. Go over to REInvestorSummit.com/note workshop and get a free copy of his REO note calculator, REO calculator. Where he has a spreadsheet. I think I got it all covered, man. Anything else you want to say to the people out there before maybe we wrap it up?
Nope. I really appreciate our time, Mitch. I really respect you as a person and all that you've accomplished. So this means a lot that we've spent this time together.
Well, part of what this podcast is about is trying to help people find their niche. And if what I have to offer helps you, then come on board and we'll try to get you educated. If what Martin has to offer, then go over there and do what he does. I don't care what you do, but take control, man. Get that life that you're destined to have, or that you should have, and become who you're supposed to be. And quit going through the motions every day to a job you hate. You know what I mean? If you hate your job, quit it. I mean, I'm not saying quit it like tomorrow, but make a plan and get moving on something different. Do you have a podcast, Martin?
I do. I actually have the largest Facebook group in note investing called Note Investing Made Easier. So I do a podcast on within the group in a private setting.
All right. Well, we'll put that in the show notes too. So go over to REInvestorSummit.com/note workshop and find out about the podcast too. I appreciate you being on, my friend. And
thank you.
Good luck in July and always, because you sound like a cool guy.
Appreciate you.
Yeah. All right. This is Mitch Stephen with the Real Estate Investor Summit podcast. I want to thank each and every one of you for stopping by to get you some Martin Saenz and maybe visit that workshop. You know, if you're not happy, like we said, just start taking some action, start getting educated, find out where you belong. There's a place for everybody on this planet. All right. Talk to you guys later.